I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite lorecast on the Citadel.
Welcome to the Mass Effect Lorecast, the podcast where we explore the vast lore behind the Mass Effect games. Spectres, welcome back to the Mass Effect Lorecast. This is your host, Tom. I'm here with Sam, as usual, and some of our patrons, because it's that time again to talk with our patrons about a really cool concept. This week's concept was pitched by Genesis, who wants us to take a decision in one of the Mass Effect games and think outside of the box, think outside of the options that they give us and come up with another option, an other option, and explain what we would do in which situation and how it would be different from the options we get in the game. And this can be anything. This can be like relationship stuff. This can be huge plot points, anything at all. And so we're going to be diving into each of our patrons and finding out what they choose for this. But first, Sam, welcome back. How's it going?
Well, I didn't get much sleep. I was up watching something last night that put me in a bad mood. Yeah, much like a lot of people.
Yes, terrible things happening on. Yes. Anyway,
but you know what? No one here is a sucker or a loser, and I'm very happy to be here with everybody. I'm not going to fall asleep either, or trail off mid-sentence. Very, very cognizant of what I'm saying.
Oh man.
So anyway, no, I already have two ideas.
Wow.
In relation to Genesis's prompt here, so I'm not going to spoil them. I'll save them for the end, just like always. But
yeah,
I have an idea. I have a feeling maybe one of these other patrons already has my same idea. It's a very contentious moment in Mass Effect.
Okay, I feel like we could do an entire side podcast that just comes up with like what if you could make a different decision instead of the ones it gives you. And we could probably keep that going for a long time because there's so much possibility with this, right? So much.
So, what if we beat Medicare?
What if we beat Medicare? Yeah, like Day Zero says in our chat. But thank you everybody for joining us. We've got Turbo joining us, Genesis, Magister's back, Apollo's back. It's a lot of the regular crew here again to talk about Mass Effect. I'm excited to get started. Who would like to kick us off? Does anybody just like, oh, I absolutely know. I know. I see Turbo's hand. Turbo, 100% certain. You know what the right answer is. What is the dilemma and what is your answer?
Well, I don't know if it's the right answer because I don't want to step in anyone's opinions, but
well, the right answer for you.
I want mine's actually Mass Effect Andromeda.
Okay.
And it's the Krogans. They were scouts, right? The Krogan scouts and the Pathfinder. I can never say their names, so I'm not going to try. But you can make a decision to save either one. And I think the mission is like hunt for. I forget his name, but like you either save the Krogan scouts or you save the Pathfinder and Solarians, and whichever one you pick, you save the one, and then the other one becomes they get mutated by the Keth, and they become like your new enemy. Like the Krogans become the Krogan Behemoth, and the Solarians, I don't remember what they are, but I wish you could choose instead of picking one of them to be like it being like an evil choice and say, I don't want to save either of them. I'm going after the bad guy. So you get both. It's like choosing hard mode. Then, like you chose to be an evil dude, you got to suffer the consequences. You have both enemy types now coming after you.
Wow. Okay, so this took a turn because I thought you were going in what seemed like the predictable direction of save them both. Like, I wish you could save them both. But instead, you just turn that on its head and you're like, nope, not going to save either. Going hard evil on this and just getting attacked by everybody.
Yeah, because whichever one you choose, you then fight the Keth and another, I think I'm saying their name right. They are the Keth, right, Legend?
The Keth, is that?
Ket.
The Ket. Yeah. Yes,
Ket?
Yeah. That makes more sense to me too. I'm like, wait, the Keth? Is this something different? No, the Ket. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, whichever one you choose, you find another wave, you save the people you just saved, and then whoever you didn't choose to save gets stuck there, and they get experiment on. And I know the Krogans become Behemoth, because that's the latest one I played. I didn't save them. I saved the Solarians because I wanted to see what happens if you actually keep the Pathfinder alive.
So is this because you? I mean, I feel like I know you. We've been on a lot of these shows together for a long time. I don't feel like you are normally the guy that picks the evil route when given the options.
I usually don't, but this is this. I've always wanted. I would like a choice where if you pick one, you don't get to see an enemy type for the rest of your game. And it means either unless you saved right before that choice, you're gonna have to start a whole new game over just to see the other enemy type.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if it's in multiplayer,
right.
But I would love to be like, I could see both enemies. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Or like you said, maybe you save both them, and that's like the easy mode of the game. It's like choosing a game like a
difficulty. Yeah.
I like this because it's, there's other games, other role-playing games that have very punishing consequences, right? Like Baldur's Gate had some very punishing consequences in the Grove. If you choose one way, you could potentially really screw up the game for the rest of the game unless you knew the outcome and that's exactly what you wanted.
Does it have something to do with the cows? Like, don't be mean to the cows.
No.
Cool. I get to be mean to cows.
I mean, I wouldn't be. I would just that one talking cow.
The one that goes moo.
Just talk with him.
Moo.
Yeah. The one that's very clearly a guy,
right?
Saying moo.
Right. Anyway, yeah, I know the cows aren't really a major thing. It's just, to me, that sounds like a really funny thing to hinge, like potentially turning the game really difficult. It's like, oh, you were mean to a cow, now everything sucks. Congratulations. But yeah, this seems
now
like
every cow attacks you on sight.
Yeah, right. The cows hate you. Everybody knows your name, and they're all gonna do terrible things to you. But that sounds interesting. First of all, you picked a game that most people don't talk about on their show. Like, this is the lesser talked about of the games. But you also picked a very interesting scenario. And so for you, it's more about like being able to engage with all of the content. It's less about like the morality of the decision or anything like that. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's open this up. Does anybody else have thoughts on this? Did this hit anybody else a little bit funny? When I was expecting that you were going to just save everybody. I was like, oh yeah, I love when you get the option to just make the good decision and there's no gray. That's super nice. Jen?
Yeah, I definitely thought it was going to go the let's save them all route, but the idea of sacrificing everybody for okay, let's go. I think it would be interesting if you've got the morally, like if you've got the high ground where you can save everyone in a decision, or in this one, you can't save everyone. But in a lot of the decisions in Mass Effect, there is a way to save everyone, like the Quarry and Geth War, you can save everyone. Well, what about the opposite? You decide to completely fail out and oops. Both the Quarians and the Geth die, or in this case, both the Solarians and the Krogans end up mutated.
Right. It kind of reminds me of like the Neutral Shepherd playthrough that Sam had. Like, is it possible to get like a worst outcome for everybody? And I think that might be the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a different take on things for sure. Would the rest of you feel like you would ever make that option of just like, no, you fail both? And I suppose like that can come up as an accident, like you get kind of cornered and you don't get to make the option you wanted to choose because you didn't raise a certain status to a certain way, or you didn't make a previous choice or something like that, right? But like, do you guys think that you could do a like, no, I'm just going to make it like hard that option? I'm seeing some shakings of heads. Sam, what do you think?
I mean,
go ahead.
Anything goes on an evil playthrough.
That's true.
Go for it.
That's true. Like if you really want to role play an evil character, then that would make sense.
I was going to say, I think different game developers address punishments and rewards for evil playthroughs a lot differently. Like, so for example, BioWare is a lot more punishing with your evil or renegade choices than if you choose bad karma options in Fallout, but like Bethesda would do to you. In fact, sometimes that's actually more advantageous for your character, to choose the bad karma evil option. But rarely is that the case in Mass Effect.
Right. That is an interesting point. Like there are some very stark differences between the two series, but I think that's a good point. Fallout is more varied in using your choices to play things out in different ways, and it's less predictable. Whereas Mass Effect feels a little bit more predictable about like, if you stay on Paragon, then you're going to get certain kinds of results. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really considered it that way. That's pretty cool.
But there's other things like, I can't remember the name of that Eclipse Merc right now, but she, is Elnora. That's her name. If you choose the Paragon one and let her live, she comes back, I think, right? I kill her every time now. I let her live the first time, but then for some reason after that, there was something that happened and I realized, you know what? I should never let her live. And same with Rana Thanoptis. Right. I think it's a little lore bit. I'm not sure if it's on screen or off screen, but I just remember something comes back with them and I'm like, that one really bit me in the butt.
Right.
Being good was still punishing.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a coworker who had a phrase about like, never do a favor for anybody because you'll have to pay for it, that kind of thing. All right. Turbo, any other thoughts on this? Anything else you want to add before we move on to someone else?
Nope. I think I covered all of it.
Cool, man. And thanks for starting us off with a really interesting perspective. This is not one that I would have predicted. So very cool. All right. Who would like to follow that up? Who wants to go second? Anybody want to raise their hand? I'm just going to stare into your eyes through the internet until I'm just going to look right into my camera. I can no longer see who is unmuting, but Jen unmuted. I just looked away from my camera. Jen, what do you think?
I unmuted.
This was your topic too. Did you have something in mind when you came up with it?
I did have something in mind when I came up with it, and it was your interaction with your Vermeer survivor on Horizon in Mass Effect 2.
Okay. So explain to us the details and what you would do differently.
Mm-hmm. So the Vermeer survivor is either going to be Ashley or Caden, and if you have romanced them, there's absolutely no way to acknowledge that in the moment. It is hey, old good buddy, I'm seeing you for the first time after I've been dead for 2 years. Let's have this really awkward conversation as if we weren't together the last time that I was awake.
I feel like we've talked about this before. So how would you change it? What would you have happen instead?
Let me acknowledge it. Even if it's like a weird, awkward moment of me trying to run up and jump into their arms or something, or even just like a dialogue option of, I've missed you so much. And then you can go into the Shepard, I'm not okay with you being a part of Cerberus. How are you still alive? And having the Vermeer survivor like not be okay with the situation. But give me something that acknowledged the fact that I romanced them in the first game.
Right, because it's awkward to not to avoid that would be weird, right? Like there's just something stilted about that. Like
I really like this idea, and it probably required, like where I'm going with this, required more advanced cinematics than they could do at the time with the tools they were given. But if you had that, your Shepard run and try and run for a hug, right? And then you have the Vermeer survivor, like you said, backing up, arms up, like, whoa, I'm not wanting to hug you right now.
Things are different. It's been a while. We need to talk first. Yeah.
Right. And then, just like Genesis was saying, like, be able to acknowledge the fact that I was dead. I was dead. Why can I not say I was dead? Like, why is that not a deliberate option to be like, look, I'm sorry, but I was dead. And I literally am not responsible for anything that happened while I was dead.
Jen, would you phrase it like that? Or how would you specifically phrase the dialogue and the scene? Like the details in this are interesting to me, like the idea of somebody running in for a hug and the other person kind of backing away, or the idea of like running in for a hug and kind of letting it happen, but then pushing them off and saying, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. There's nuance there, right? There's a certain amount that like betrays like, oh, I missed you too. Wait, hold on, put the brakes. How would you set that up? Like if you were the person scripting the scene?
Oh, Oh, that's a tough one because I kind of like both options there. I'm seeing me running up to hug Ashley and her just like whipping her shotgun around me on me and going,
Oh.
"Whoa, Shep, I don't like who are you?"
Whoa.
Because we haven't even had the interaction yet in order to be like, I'm not a clone. I'm not a zombie. I'm not somebody that the collectors who you just saw bring all these people away and kill all these people. Like, I'm not with them. We need to have the conversation, but I need something to acknowledge the fact that, this is a former squad mate. This is something.
Yeah.
Or even Caden, he could like throw up a biotic shield. I think it'd be hilarious to see Shepard bounce off of a shield that Caden threw up.
Or just stop in his tracks, just like,
Yeah.
like, yeah. Oh, that's intense. I didn't think about the whole just pulling a gun because I don't know if you're even dangerous at this point. It's not just I haven't seen you. It's you could be not what you look like and you're dangerous. So don't come near me yet. We need to talk. What would you, if you had just like a one line of phrase to put, how you have like those options, like what would the phrase be?
I do like Sam's option of I was dead.
I was dead.
Delivered in a very Ross Geller, we were on a break type fanatic. Like, we were on a break. I was dead.
Right. Okay. Nice. I like it. Let's open this up. What did the rest of you think about this scene? Do you think, I feel like it improves it. I mean, it seems like an obvious improvement. Turbo?
Yes, I love the thing of like I was dead. Because it's like you don't get to explain yourself. It's like this, that's like if we had to choose one line, I love the Sam's just being able to say one line like I was dead.
Yeah, I was dead.
It's not an excuse. I am literally just giving you what was happening.
Just matter of fact.
That's why I was in contact with you. I wasn't ghosting you, thinking like I want to break up. No, it's like I was dead.
I was an actual ghost.
Yeah,
I tried ghosting you, but that didn't work. So now I'm back in my body again. What's up? How
it's like
you doing?
even if we were married, that I was dead. So it's death do us part. We were parted. I'm sorry, babe.
All agreements are null and void.
Like I was dead.
I guess that is. I mean, if you were actually pronounced dead, does that mean that it null and voids things like marriage or other contracts that you have?
Well, it definitely does with death sentences. I think there is a legal precedent for that. There was a guy who was sentenced to death. They botched the execution. He was technically dead and came back. And so he said that he fulfilled his death sentence. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually true. I'm not a lawyer, right? This
Right.
is just something I've read online. But if that is a legal precedent, then I feel like in seeking a lawsuit to annul your marriage because you were dead and came back, that might actually work.
I think it's happened where people have gone missing, been declared dead when they had to come back and stuff like that. I think people have been able to be married without having to get a divorce because it's like
Right, because the world moved on as if they were dead. So therefore, how can they hold responsibility for any of that? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. This has layers. This is really, really fun. Magister or Apollo? Do you guys have thoughts? Apollo has some thoughts. I saw your hand real quick. But Magister, you chime in after Apollo, Magister.
So, with the whole thing that was saying, running up to him and saying, "I'm not a clone." Would a cloned Good Shepherd know that he wasn't a clone without unless somebody told him he wasn't a clone?
We don't.
Wouldn't a clone shepherd think he was the real shepherd?
I was going to say we don't need to think because of the Citadel DLC.
But that was a bad clone.
In that respect, though, Ashley and Caden were kind of right to be cautious because there was, in fact, a Shepherd clone at that point in the lore. And we know that from not just Citadel DLC, but the comics as well.
Yeah, as stereotypical as that sounds for a sci-fi show to have like, oh, a clone to the main character, surprise. Yeah, no, that was the thing. So, yeah, good question. Magister, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, especially with you're bringing up the whole pushing away versus bringing a gun out. It'd be really cool if there were choices along the way before you got to that location that basically like could escalate. Whether that would, whether it be like more of a welcome hug than a I'm going to shoot you type situation. Because imagine if you like had a bunch of choices beforehand and you were a Paragon Shepherd and you were doing some like renegade actions later on, and then actually like straight up has a gun in your face, or Caden goes full biotic and like, I have no idea who you are. I've heard about what you've done type situation. It'd be cool if we could like add some more to that scene to like have the build up to that. Whether it be like, oh yes, you're the shepherd I know, but I'm not sure still, versus, I have no idea who you are, Skipper.
Yeah,
Back up.
yeah. The inverse of that seems true too. Like if you're a shepherd who, since you have come back, have been doing Paragon things and they know about it, then maybe they are more welcoming. Maybe still a little suspicious, but at least more welcoming, right? Like maybe they do allow you to do the hug, but then they back up and go, okay, well, we need to talk. But it's much more gentle, right? Yeah.
There's subtle differences like that when you reconnect with the Vermeer survivor in Mass Effect 3 on Mars. So yeah, that would be really cool to see if your choices had a difference there. And I was thinking along those lines as well. What if there was a series of interrupts that you could do or had to meet a certain threshold to get at that point to unlock those actions, similar to if you were romancing Liara and you do the rapid succession Paragon interrupts during the Shadowbroker DLC, that walking, talking kind of, would you just wait a second scene would be so powerful with the Vermeer Survivor too.
Yeah, absolutely. These are some really cool ideas. Jen, any other thoughts on this before we move on?
I just wanted to say that the Liara aspect of it is kind of what made me really wish that the Caden Ashley interaction was different, because if you romanced Liara in one, the second that you see her for the first time, she walks straight up to you and kisses you, regardless of what you've done in 2 so far. I had already locked in with Garrus and had my reach and flexibility conversation with him. He's standing right behind me. Liara walks up to me and starts making out with me. And I'm like,
Oops. I like it. Yeah. That makes me wonder how many other ways you could make this situation even more awkward with other characters around. Turbo has some more thoughts.
I would love now you brought that up, I would love being able to like through the whole game, just be able to go like, I was dead. Like it comes up like it comes up so much. Anytime someone says like, what are you doing? Like, I was dead.
Right. Anytime everyone's like, you need to take responsibility for the shepherd, and you just go, I was dead. Every time.
I literally died.
Sorry, dead guy.
It's like you give me like every time you meet someone, they're like, where have you been? I was dead.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you know what? Why were there not more dead man walking jokes thrown in there? I mean, come on. It kind of writes itself. But we're talking about reimagining that scene. I just had a thought as well. How awful would it have been in like a really powerful emotional way if when you meet the Vermeer survivor, they literally don't recognize you because they went through some kind of like memory wipe to get over you in a very eternal sunshine of the spotless mind.
Right. Like they intentionally did it. Yeah. Ooh.
Or maybe the Alliance was like, we need to contain the intelligence that this person knows about Shepard and let Shepard's secrets die with them.
Oh, and they're just wiped and they're like, nice to meet you. And you're like, what?
How painful would that be?
Yeah, no, that's another good one. Yeah, there's all sorts of fun ways to play this stuff out, for sure. All right. Well, this is a fun one, Jen. This is awesome stuff. This has been such a fun conversation so far, but we have to take a quick break and talk and thank our patrons and everybody else who helps support the show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
I am sovereign, and this
Lorecast
is mine. I like the sound of that.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. We have a brand new patron, Sandwich14. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandwich14. Also, if you want to help us out in other ways, I jumped over the Shepherd thing. I should probably do that first. We also have to thank our Shepherd tier patrons. I clicked the wrong tab. Edboy, Kira C, Lieutenant Ticino, and William, thank you so much for your support. If you're interested in supporting the show, head over to patreon.com/Mass Effect Lorecast. Check out all the stuff you can get. Lots of cool stuff. We talk about it all the time. Also, if you want to help us out and support the show, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read out your words on a future episode. We don't have any new ones this week, which means if you leave a new one, we'll probably read it out next week. You can also rate the show on Spotify and other platforms. You can share it with your friends, all of that stuff. So thank you to everyone who keeps this show going. We genuinely appreciate it. All right, let's move on with the rest of the conversation and find out what our other two guests have to say.
Spit it out, or are you trying to build suspense?
You're so dense, sir.
Obviously, I do not know as much about human relationships as I thought.
All right, we're back. Magister, Apollo, who would like to take the next one? I see Apollo. Apollo's making a, yeah, okay, I'll go kind of expression. All right, Magister, Magister's last. So, Apollo, your job right now is to make this as impossible as you can for Magister to come up with an even better, cooler idea.
Well, I don't know about all that.
No pressure. Go.
Here's what I got. So generally in Mass Effect, your decisions do affect later games. You know, if in Mass Effect 2, if you mess up the suicide mission, those people you lose don't come back.
Right.
If you don't do things right with Conrad Werner, you don't get the best possible outcome with him, where he, talks about his doctoral thesis and helps the cause. So I know the one that I'm about to say would probably pretty much change the end of Mass Effect 2 and would require them to have a different beginning to Mass Effect 3. But I would like, if I don't do the Arrival mission and literally am not the one responsible for all the Batarians dying, to not still get relieved of my command and be blamed for all the Batarians dying when I didn't do it. Because I've literally skipped that mission and I'm still, it doesn't change anything.
You still have to take responsibility even when you skip
it.
Yeah.
When I literally didn't do it, it would start the invasion sooner, obviously, but I don't think we were prepared at the beginning of Mass Effect 3 anyway, so would that even matter? And
True.
I don't know. I would like to not be held accountable for something that I literally didn't do.
So this is interesting because it's not like a dialogue option. It's if I just skip this, I want the rest of the game to treat it like I'm not responsible for that, which means completely crafting an alternate start for Mass Effect 3, which is kind of crazy. Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit, Apollo. Let's say you don't take responsibility for that. How do you, and I've got some ideas, I'm sure everybody has ideas, but how do you specifically see Mass Effect 3 starting?
Well, I think it would start about they could make the timeline work for Mass Effect 2 still ends the way it does, and that invasion starts right after it. But I think it would start basically the same, wouldn't it? They would still come and invade. We still wouldn't be ready.
Right.
I just would still be Commander Shepard instead of having to be given my command back, right?
Yeah, for the most part, you could probably cut out any of the dialogue that refers to you being reinstated, any of that stuff, right? Because you're walking through the hallways, you're talking with different characters, you're reconnecting with certain people. I would suppose you could just interpose another explanation for where you've been or why you haven't seen somebody recently or whatever. Oh, so glad that you're back from the mission, Shepard. We've got this thing going on, like that kind of thing, you know?
Well, I think it would just literally start where Mass Effect 2, like you could literally start Mass Effect 3 right at the end of Mass Effect 2, because they would invade and it's boom, no time has even passed. It could be like the next day kind of thing.
Like you're landing on Earth for some meeting or something, and boom, all of a sudden Reaper's out of the sky. Yeah. Interesting. This is a really, again, another idea that I couldn't have predicted. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this? I see the gears turning.
I do, but I gotta be honest. I kind of think that Mass Effect 3's beginning is already perfect.
Oh, man.
I agree. I love the beginning of Mass Effect 3. I would just like to not be held accountable in a future game for something that I literally did not do.
Yeah, what if it plays out all basically the same? You just kind of remove any of the dialogue that talks about reinstating Shepard and any of that stuff. And it still has roughly the same pacing, the chaos that happens, running around with Anderson, all of that stuff. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be okay with that, but then we get into the whole debate of like, okay, well, if they do that there, they can do it other places, and then they're basically rendering some of your choices obsolete. And I don't know. I think it's okay. My main gripe with the beginning of Mass Effect 3 is mainly that anyone who didn't get the DLC, the Arrival DLC, doesn't know why Shep was imprisoned or incarcerated. Not imprisoned. I don't think Shep was.
I think that's another like mark on Apollo's justification is that, I mean, even today, somebody who doesn't buy Legendary, just happens to have a copy of Mass Effect 2 they never finished, plays through it and then goes, I'm going to play Mass Effect 3 and then doesn't do the DLC. Like there are a few instances where that is a little confusing, jumping from one game to the next without doing DLC stuff. Jen has some thoughts on this. What do you think, Jen?
Well, that's kind of how my first like 2 or 3 playthroughs was, because I played the OG trilogy via Game Pass, where it was the free editions, and it didn't come with the Arrival DLC. So I went from 2 having no idea what happened in Arrival,
thinking you're a hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in 3, I'm incarcerated and I have no ship and I've been stripped of my title. And all it said was that I had committed war crimes during my journey. And so apparently going through the Omega Relay is what was considered my crime, because that is off limits. We're not allowed to go through it. And there's like some rule or some sanction saying that you're not allowed to. But the fact that Shepard went through it is what made them incarcerated back on Earth, grounded back on Earth.
That's not nearly as satisfying, for sure. Yeah. All right, let's open this up. Turbo or Magister, either of you have any thoughts on this one? Did you guys come across this as a dilemma, or did you just play through it, or did you skip it?
The very first time I played Mass Effect 3, yes, because I didn't have the DLC at the time. I would always wonder, like, why am I always felt like I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I in trouble? Like, sure, I worked with Cerberus, but it's like, it's like
you're right.
That's not a war crime. I was like wondering what.
Right, like what did you do? Like I totally get it. Yeah. Magister, you wanted to chime in too. What were you thinking?
Oh, I was going to say that that actually is an interesting thought to me, because I've always played it with that DLC. So it never even came up to me that would be a situation that would occur.
Yeah, I feel like it's the kind of thing that more people than we probably know have experienced. And there's just that confusion going into Mass Effect 3. I mean, think about it. Like, if you look at any stats for how many copies of DLC that actually get bought compared to the base game of any game, it's always precipitously lower by like a significant amount. You know, so like if 100% of people of a specific group have bought the base game, it's probably only something like 20 or 40% that actually buy the DLCs or less. So then years go by, the next game comes out, somebody who enjoyed the base game who didn't buy the DLC goes, oh yeah, this is exciting, I want to be part of this. They buy the next game, and then they miss out on that, right? Like that seems like a thing that probably happens for a lot of people. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Sam?
Not on this one, no.
Okay, cool. This is another interesting idea, Apollo. Anything else you want to add, Apollo, before we move on?
Yeah, I think we covered it.
Yeah, it makes sense. This one makes sense. All right, Magister, you're up. I know I put a lot of pressure on Apollo and now you, but what are your thoughts? Is this like a conversational thing? Is it a situation thing? Where are you going?
I'm of two minds on things, because this was actually a hard topic for me to like choose from. The problem is, like, I kind of wish we could have more squad mates, like to make the choice to have more squad mates on the ground. But that seems like a lazy one. So I think I'll go with being able to knock out Benezia.
Ooh, okay. So at what point, explain your vision
have
for
that
this.
Whole moment where she is like brought back to sanity. When you're fighting her, and she's like making those like dialogues and everything like that. What would be the butterflies effect if, like, while she was in that right mindset, before she goes all, "I'm sorry, little one," and then starts trying to kill you again? If you had you have an Omni tool, is there no tranks on that? Like being able to just like, okay, now you're down. I feel like just having someone who had the internal ear of Saren, or just who had that knowledge of the Reapers and what they were, could have caused a lot more ripples effect of people believing the fact that the Reapers were a real thing.
Interesting. Okay. So you would tranquilize, not like, when you said knockout, I was thinking like punch in the face.
Well, that too. Shepard's got a good hook. We see that all the time with the news reporters. So
okay.
Just being able to like incapacitate, so that the rest of the fight doesn't continue, You don't have Liara Liara have to watch her mother or be a part of her mother's death, and you also have someone who had who was in the inner circle of Saren and knows about the Reapers.
Right.
I feel like if you had that opportunity to either knock her out or take her out or whatever else without killing her.
Right. To kind of shortcut the whole scenario is really what you're talking about here, right? Like just kind of like don't allow things to progress the way they would, just like block it out.
Killing her.
Yeah. Right. Like just like, okay, shortcut, boop, nothing, none of this other stuff goes forward. Just like she's unconscious. We're done. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. Interesting. Sam, do you have thoughts on this one?
Yes. So I never considered this as an option, but that would be amazing. I would love to be able to do that. And just thinking about all the different dialogue that might come after that, if you were able to, preserve her life and what kind of insight she'd have, not just to Saren, but the entire indoctrination process. Yeah, like you said, it would be invaluable. And that would be a choice that ripples throughout, I think, the entire trilogy.
Yeah, Magister, how do you see things playing out in the long term? Does she end up like in the medical part of the Normandy and she's just being kept unconscious for a while? And then like what plays out after? Like, do you keep her around? Do you try to rehabilitate her? Like, what do you see?
My thought process would be to if you were to knock her out, of course you'll bring her back onto the Normandy, keep her sedated, because you never know, she might. She has her mind is taken a bit, so we don't know if she's a risk or not. Get her back to the Citadel, to her people, to the Asari, and basically give her over to the Asari. My apologies. What is the name of the three people that are in charge of the Citadel? The council.
The council. Yeah.
Give her to the Asari counselor, and yes, them attempting to rehabilitate her, and then them actually probably coming over the fact, learning the fact that of indoctrination, because that's not something that people really took seriously from Shepard. So if you literally have this matriarch, this well-known matriarch, matriarch who's been doing a lot for your culture and well-respected, well, you see how she is literally back and forth between losing her mind or not, especially after you kill Sovereign. I imagine some of that being bleeding into her head will be lessened a good bit. There's a lot of stuff that she could bring forth to them, and imagine how even the Andromeda initiative, how much more backing that the Asari probably would have did for that if they heard about stuff from Benezia, or how much more shadow ops will be happening between the Alliance and the Asari people, or all the other counselors. You never know when people are actually able to listen to what Benezia says as far as her time with Saren in the midst of Sovereign.
Yeah, I think the most interesting point you made is basically here is the indoctrination proof. It's right here. You don't have to trust my word. You don't have to trust my experience or our crew's experience. It's right in front of you. Mm-hmm. That.
It's not just a guess experiment. It's not a guess experiment. These are Reapers. This is an actual thing that's happening.
Right. I feel like if you were able to bring the council that amount of evidence right there, especially like you said, with somebody who is well known and respected and important in her society and all of that shortcuts, and you're not just shortcutting the conversation and what was happening in that moment, you're shortcutting so much of what everybody else is going through with Shepard trying to convince them of what's actually happening, right? And now all of a sudden the story is off in a completely different direction because they have a little bit more of a head start on being able to fight against the Reapers than they would have without it. That has huge ramifications. I think you've done it. You beat Apollo. You're
Thank you.
Sorry, Apollo. This one, Magister wins. So here, let's open this up. Who has other thoughts on this one? Because this is a far-reaching thing. This could affect lots of different stuff. Apollo, what do you think?
So with the indoctrination thing, do the Reapers have the ability, if Sovereign or any Reaper discovers that one of their indoctrinated people has been captured and is being interrogated, couldn't they just kill them? How does the indoctrination work? Can they kill them through the indoctrination?
I would just be guessing. I don't know if somebody like Sam, who has way more knowledge about this than I do, can chime in, but I would guess that's probably seems possible. But also in this scenario, if Sovereign's gone, then that's not a problem. So you kind of...
Well, how does indoctrination... Is indoctrination a one Reaper to one person kind of thing, or is it
all Reapers? Is it all... Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I think it's... I don't know. I kind of just always imagined it as an area of effect kind of thing, where when a Reaper lands on a planet, they are exerting, influence over people's minds. Like Manuel is sensitive to it, but it happens to multiple people on one planet. But I also considered it like, it seems as if a Reaper consciously focuses its energy into indoctrinating one person, it can.
Yeah, Chad is discussing also, wasn't it maybe more of Sovereign or more Saren than Sovereign? I don't know. This all feels kind of nebulous to me. I'm not sure we know exactly who's in charge of maintaining the indoctrination, right? Like, it's not like we get to study it or something and really get the details. But I suppose that means it's open to whatever the writers would want to do with this in that situation. I also would assume that it would take Reaper technology or a Reaper being within a certain proximity to a person, because information and control cannot travel faster than like the speed of light. So if that technology or that Reaper is not nearby, then it doesn't really affect you anymore, I would suppose. I don't know. What do you think, Marcel?
I mean, I would think that it would require, like you said, a Reaper either nearby or an item that amplifies their like broadcasting capabilities, like the idol that was it Saren's brother found?
Yeah, the technology of it, right? Like right within proximity. Like something seems like it needs to be in proximity. That's at least that feels like that works with the way the stories seem to work. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I believe it's, based off of the Leviathan's ability to mind control. And of course, the Leviathans, they need these artifacts in close proximity to take over people's minds.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, man. Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Jen, do you have thoughts? Turbo? No? Turbo doesn't have any thoughts. Jen?
I think it would definitely be interesting to see how Matriarch Benezia would then evolve after that. Interactions in Mass Effect 2, maybe that, especially since we get to meet Liara's dad in 2 and in 3.
A reunion scene? Ooh, yeah.
There's that. And who knows, maybe Benezia could be such a she would definitely be a war asset in 3 if she's on the ground fighting on Thessia. Maybe Thessia could have gone differently because she's one of the most powerful biotics in the matriarchy. Keep being able to save her somehow would be very, very interesting.
Right. And from a social standpoint, you would have the dilemma of people going, oh, she's an asset, but then other people going, but can we trust her? How do we know we can trust her? Like that whole thing, that whole dynamic would definitely play out. Magister's nodding his head. You think so too, Magister? Is that where you see this going?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm even actually thinking about the potential of Liara wanting to become the Shadow Broker. Maybe on top of saving Farron is to find a cure for her mother.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah, that could be another layer to it as well. Alduin in chat says, did anyone that was indoctrinated survive? Can't think of anyone. Do we know of it? I don't know. Everybody's like looking off into the distance. We're all gazing into the sky for answers on the Turbo.
The one that was taken over by the plant. The sorry, she technically was
the Thorian.
Thorian.
But I don't know if that technically
it was technically
qualifies.
just switching one indoctrination for another is what she practically did.
So the Rachni Queen didn't necessarily get indoctrinated, right? And if you saved her in 1 and then she comes back in 3, then she was kind of subjugated, but it seems like the Rachni Queen always retained her own mind, but not her children.
Interesting. Interesting. All right.
So it'll be a power skill thing then, basically. If her children couldn't, but she could.
It's a high wisdom stat, I guess.
Everything's D&D now. It's an area of effect spell. Her wisdom stat was high enough she was able to roll against it. And so, yeah. And this is a cool idea, Magister. Thank you for sharing this one. Man, these conversations are always so fun. Thank you, everybody. Any other thoughts on this, Magister? I guess we're wrapping this one up with you. Any other thoughts? No other thoughts on this one. Sam, you said you had some ideas. Do you want to share one of yours or two of yours?
Yes. So I was going to say the Vermeer one, first of all. But second of all, my hot take is, and some people have already heard this, but I have a problem with the way that Tali's trial plays out. I don't like the fact that a Paragon Shepherd still has to lie. And for what? To protect her ego? Because her father's already dead. And this isn't really about her reputation in as much as it is about her father's reputation, and about the fact that he lied to the entirety of his people and put them in harm's way in doing so. Like, I understand that this whole trial is really a pawn and it's a game between the Warhawks in the Admiralty and the ones who would prefer not to go to war. But the fact of the matter is that her father was concealing things as an admiral. He was abusing his power. He's concealing things from his people. And this is coming to light, and it's embarrassing for her, right? Because she's his daughter. But why does a Paragon, a heroic military commander, have to lie to get her out of it? So for me, I would have made it a very, very high Paragon check. So you had to have a super high Paragon points.
Super Paragon.
But you could have pointed out the exact political machinations that were going on and still admitted the truth, still shown the evidence, but said to the people basically that this evidence doesn't exonerate, it doesn't incriminate Tali, but you deserve to know. And here's what's going on.
Right. Like, you are so trustworthy that you can call a spade and set everything straight right there with the truth.
Yes.
Right. That's a cool idea.
That is the impossible choice that I would have, implemented in there. But I just don't like the fact that the only way to present the evidence is a renegade non-speech check option where you have to present the evidence and then lose Tali's loyalty in the process. I mean, I get it. They probably had discussions like this back and forth in the writer's room, and maybe they went with that because they're like, you know what? There's sometimes you can't have it all. Right. But the fact that Tali is so childish that she can't see past the fact that Shepard's loyalty to something greater than her would take precedence. That Shepard, being a leader in and of him or herself, would see this situation as, am I really going to lie to all of these people for Tali? Seriously?
Right.
Like, I mean, even if you really deeply love someone, that should be a soul-searching moment.
Yeah, no, because as the role, as you as Shepard have a lot more responsibility than just to this one person. There's a lot on your shoulders. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did the rest of you think about this? Anybody else want to chime in? Paulo?
So what do you think a Paragon Shepherd would say? Like, because he didn't actually answer the question, right? They ask him the question about it, and he just goes on his speech about this isn't about love. Right. Well, what if the jurors just say, that's nice, answer the question? What do you think a Paragon Shepherd does if they actually make him answer the question?
Well, first of all, I don't think a Paragon Shepherd would grandstand and deflect. So
that part would never happen.
Right. But if you did, then I would say it's potentially embarrassing for Shepard, right? It's potentially like, do you come clean and show them the truth at that point and admit that you were trying to deceive them in the process? Because then you're even less trustworthy than before. Or do you double down and like many politicians we've seen in real life, continue your campaign of deceit with more lies than they can count in 30 seconds. It's not, that would be a really, really great, basically like catch-22 that you could put Shepard in. But I still think that there should have been, even with high requirements, an option to present the truth and not lose Tali's loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the problem. You lose the loyalty. If you're trying to romance her and you don't go that route, you lost it. So you're forced into it.
Well, right. And that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way too, because, okay, let's say that you do, basically cover for her and you deflect and you deceive. She knows what's going on. She sees that you're lying for her to save her own ass. So is she going to trust someone like that in the long term?
Right. It feels like a very short-term decision, which is not typically what Paragon is for. Like
she would trust that you have her back, but she would also think this person is capable of great deception and just deceived like a very large group of my people. That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Lies are bad, everybody. How about we just all agree? Lying is bad. If there are people that who lie, maybe don't support them.
Not trustworthy.
Not trustworthy.
No, and should not be in positions of power.
Right. There you go. All right. Solid stuff. I think that does it for this episode. All sorts of fun things to talk about and consider. With these games, it'd be amazing if they had like infinite amount of time to put a game together and go through all the different options and really flesh it all. That's not possible. They have to get the games out eventually. So we're left with these kinds of questions of like, well, I wish I would have been able to have this option. Why wasn't that there? But it's cool. All right, let's go back through and feel free to shout out anything you've got going on that you want to put out into the universe. Otherwise, just tell people how they can get a hold of you if you want to do that. Turbo, thanks for being on the show, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Anything you want to share?
I have absolutely nothing.
Cool, man. Glad you're here, though. Thanks for coming. Genesis, I know you've got stuff. I say that every time. You got stuff?
And then I always respond with, I do have stuff. I have two shows that are on a part of the Robots Radio Network, the Two Girls, One Ship podcast, where we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer, and the Cyberpunk Lorecast, where we discuss the foundations of the past, the state of Night City today, and the news of the future for all things cyberpunk, including my new box set that just came in the mail today. It's the Cyberpunk Edge Runners mission kit. You can now play as the anime characters in Cyberpunk Red. I'm so excited for this thing.
That's fun. I've heard a lot of buzz about Cyberpunk 2 stuff. I've seen some headlines breaking the news, so that's exciting as well. Well, awesome. Go check out Jen's shows. Anything you're listening to this on, you can find her shows over there as well, or you can go to robotsradio.net. Find links on there also. Jen, thanks for being here. Magister, thanks for joining us again. Anything you want to share? I know you've got stuff.
I currently nothing right at this moment. I'm still working on matters, but thank you for having me here. I'm this Magister DeVita. Find me on Patreon and on the Discord. If you want to chat about anything, it's cool. I'm here for it. Besides that, been listening to podcasts recently. Been catching up on a lot of Robots Radio's podcasts, so that's been good. But yeah, not much for me right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you're checking out the other stuff. And thanks for being here. Apollo, you're the last of the patrons.
Nothing really going on. I'm excited for the Olympics. I love Olympic swimming, so yeah, that's to look forward to.
Awesome. Yeah, Olympics is coming up. This weekend is Games Done Quick starts. It's a whole week of stuff. So if you are into speed running and money for charity, raising like millions of dollars over the week for charity, look up Games Done Quick. It's on Twitch. Lots of different speedrunners, but the fun part about it is that there's always somebody there, whether it's the speedrunner themselves or somebody with them, explaining what they're doing and how they're breaking games. They've speedrunned, is that a word? The Mass Effect games before. They've done a variety of different titles. It's always crazy. It's the nerdiest thing that happens all year, and it is super awesome. You should go check it out. Also, they raise a lot of money for really good causes, and being a part of that is also awesome as well. I'm not connected to them in any way, but I have considered even maybe going out and seeing one of these events live because they're so cool, and it's such a good cause. So they've done like Doctors Without Borders, they've done the Cancer Society, things like that. So just want to put that out there. Sam, I know you've got stuff too. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, so we took last week off, right, because I was helping my fiance move in.
Yeah, and I was on family vacation, so both of us had a thing. Yeah.
And so she's moved in now. There's a bunch of boxes to unpack, but I am back and I should be streaming regularly. Again, of course, I'm going forward with my personal canon playthrough of Mass Effect 3. That's really fun. I'm thinking I'm going to resume streaming Fallout, my midweek Fallout streams. I've been really enjoying that, but I'm also like starting to get back into Starfield because mods are really exploding now that the creation kit has released, and I've been thinking about toying around with making my own mods in the Starfield creation kit. I downloaded that on Steam, so I was thinking maybe that would be an interesting stream to make, like watch me try and make a mod for my first time.
Watch me learn C++. Not that you need C++ for all the mods, but yeah,
right.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's fun.
So yeah. Anyway, if any of that interests you, you can find me on Twitch, or if you just want to chat, we can chat Mass Effect lore. I'm down anytime. My Twitch is In7 the Legend, same as Twitter. Same as if I have a social media account, that's what the handle is. If you can't find that handle, I probably don't have an account there. So
there you go. Yeah, go check out his stuff. Also, robotsradio.net for more shows, and including some of the shows we talked about already on this episode. And I've been trying to stream games more often too. So usually afternoons, I've been playing Fallout and Elder Scrolls. I might play Lord of the Rings online as part of my Lord of the Rings Lorecast stuff in order to play through and get a sense of like the quest lines and the stories in the game, because they're all supposedly very tied to the lore in really solid, interesting ways. So I'm thinking about maybe doing that. And if you want to, this is the other thing. And Sam, I know you get this all the time too. We have people who jump in and they're like, hey, I'd love to have a chat with you about something. And I don't have enough time every time somebody says, hey, I'd love to sit down and just talk. But if you want to jump into a live stream, that's a great opportunity to like actually get some one-on-one response and be part of it. Or heck, joining us for patron chats like this. Also another opportunity to do that. So thanks for being here, everybody. Lots of fun ways for you to interact with us and the community. And we'll see you next time. Sam and I'll be back with another regular episode. And until then, stay safe out there. We'll see you later. Thanks for tuning into the Mass Effect Lorecast. We'd love to hear your opinion and thoughts on the lore of Mass Effect. Reach out to us on Twitter at Mass Effect Cast, or check out the Robots Radio Discord. Also, you can send us an email at masseffectlorecast@gmail.com.